Alright, everyone, welcome to episode number 78 of Everyday Thoughts, and let's get straight into it. So, starting off, make indirect, if you're planning on doing a favor with a so called hidden intent, which, I mean, a favor is a favor, and it depends on who you make the favor to. But obviously, when you make favors to friends, don't expect anything back. That's why you're friends. Just let it be. And that is also where the power comes in it. Because when you make indirect favors, they yield far more power, and the other person feels just so much more obligated to return the favor, if not even more than that. So if you plan on giving some or doing somebody a favor and you have it with a actual intent of getting something back, which you most of the time just shouldn't do. I'm not saying all the time, but you most of the time just shouldn't do it. At least make it indirect. Indirect meaning that you just don't go up to somebody and giving them a gift, but mostly what you're trying to do is that if they have something that they really need in the dire moment, then you help them out, and that will be a indirect favor. Then next thing, group settings are far more emotional and less rational. What does this mean? Well, they are far more likely to be influenced, and it just goes back to the paradox. I have no clue how it's called, but it basically says that in a group setting, even the smartest people can act like absolute idiots, which is completely true, and just plays more into the fact that people in group settings are so much more likely to be influenced, which can also be used to your benefit. But the problem is, once you have a group against you, you are basically fucked, because you have like 20 people. A group doesn't have to be 20 people, but you just have a larger amount of people that are now, instead of truly following you with all their might, going against you with all their might. On the other side, you have the individual, though, which is far more difficult to influence, because when you're talking one to one to an individual, you actually need a far more rhetoric speech to actually influence somebody, and it's basically just overall much harder because the person thinks so much more rational, unless obviously they are in a dire situation and looking for a quick way out, which, for example, I found out today on it was just a court case, and I was live there just watching it, and it was basically two guys just trying to make quick money off a scam. In the end, I don't believe the verdict was precise enough. I think it was a lot more planned than they made it seem to be, but that's besides the point. What I'm trying to prove is just, when you have somebody that's in dire need of situation and you're playing that sort of savior role, then it's a lot easier to influence somebody. Again, all of this that I'm saying about influencing people right now, don't use this for malicious intent. Obviously, there's going somebody, he's gonna do it, but it's mostly so you're just actually aware of what people can do and that you can protect yourself from it. Then, practice boldness. Why? Well, basically, if you just go balls deep into absolutely everything, you're not scared of anything, and you have absolutely no obstacles. Mentally speaking. So when you actually just go sprint full force, for example, you have like a 100-meter dash. Well, if you just go boldly in, you just run the 100 meters, and at the finish line, you don't just stop. You keep running because you know that you just keep going. But then, on the other hand, if you don't go in the 100-meter dash with boldness and you think you're going to crash into a wall after you finish the 100-meter sprint, then you're going to stop shortly in front of the finish line or slow down, which will just slower your overall time. And that just corresponds or correlates, or you can just say that it translates over to real life if you want to see it that way. That if you aren't truly bold in everything, or it doesn't even have to be everything, but in scenarios where it actually matters that you don't overthink too much. That was a crazy voice crack. That you just actually go balls deep into it and you're not scared of any consequences. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're supposed to do stupid shit, but just I'm not responsible for anything that you do. There you go. And then the last two things. Don't go halfway. Why? Because you make room for other people to take over. So practice boldness, go all the way, make your conclusion clear, and when you have the conclusion, that is basically the most important thing you have. Because in the end, well, what matters the most to people outside looking at you? Well, the outcome. If you fought really hard but you still failed, well, you still failed. A lot of people don't care how hard you really fought. You can see that as problematic as you want it to be, but that's just how it is, and that's how I'm gonna end the video. See you tomorrow.